Hello guys and welcome to my new video. So today I decided to do a kind of like an overview of what happened during the week of the news stories that I found to be really interesting. And there's two stories that I'm going to be covering in this video. So the first thing is that the Mythic Argus secret phase is kinda there. There's been streams and there's been video content that's available that kind of showcases you the phase 2 transition to phase 3, and phase 3 is different than what you saw on Heroic. I haven't seen that much information about phase 4. Phase 4 is supposed to be completely different, but it's really interesting to see phase 3 at least for the time being, and it's really actually interesting to see some of the mythic guilds, top end mythic guilds, trying to stream some of this content. And the second story that I'm going to be covering, which is actually really interesting, limit DDoS attacks. So it's been uncovered by Limit themselves that one of the healers DDoSed a healer that was basically raiding. One of the backup healers DDoSed the healer that was raiding in order for him or her get a raid spot. So this is the kind of shenanigans that happen for the top end guilds, where raid spots are so important to some people that they see no measures of actually trying to get there, trying to get that round first, world first, whatever, mythic kills. And I'll be covering that later on. So first of all, let's have a look at the Mythic Argus encounter. And there's been an Asian guild that's been streaming a lot of this content. Like I mentioned before, it's actually really cool to see some of the top end guilds streaming this. I know that a lot of top end guilds won't be streaming live content, live mythic progression rates, just because they don't want to give away the tactics. But I feel that there is so much, first of all, this is my personal opinion, I feel that there is so much demand for this Mythic World First Races that even if they do end up streaming it, like I know for example, Method is basically a brand right now, and they're building a brand that's basically allows the raiders to support themselves, or the creators of the guild to support themselves, which is important because once you spend 20 hours per day raiding, where are you getting money to survive? Like, so I don't see no reason why Method wouldn't start streaming Mythic Plus Progress. I can see that the viewership for that would be something similar to what Mythic Plus Invitation was seeing, maybe even more, and that would last for like 1 or 2 weeks. So it'll be like a contest, like it'll be a hugely watched contest on Twitch, and I see that in the future Mythic Plus guilds are going to start streaming this, and I am up for that. I think that's awesome. And first of all, let's like have a look at the Asians guild progression from phase 2 to phase 3. So like I said, I haven't seen phase 4 footage yet because it hasn't happened yet. So you can see in the video that you can see it's a point of view of a protection warrior tank, which is actually really interesting. You can see in the meters that they actually brought 5 healers for this fight, and you can see that people have these red buffs around them, and you also can see that those red buffs are different. First of all, it took me a little while to actually pinpoint how these red buffs are different, because you can see one of them has circle and one of them is kind of bullseye kind of type. So these debuffs are actually really interesting. If you have the circly red debuff, it means you can stack. It means you have to have someone beside you at all times. And if you have the different one, not the full circly one, this is a very good description, you need to spread out. So stack and spread out. Simple enough, not too crazy, nothing too amazing. But then you see here, during the transition into phase 3, that Argus goes hardcore and turns basically all red. So basically what happens is Sargeras infuses Argus with some of his powers and turning him red and going crazy. You see here, this is the part when the raid is going to be resurrected. If you actually, first of all, the link to the video is in the description if you want to watch it yourself, if you want to watch the person who's streaming this as well. So this is the part where they're all dying, they're about to be resurrected, and they're about to actually see what's going on with the new phase. Of course, if you're at that type of progression, seeing new content, seeing new phases is obviously going to be distracting. And if you actually listen to the audio, everyone's like, oh my god, oh this is crazy, and kind of stuff happening, which is but it's really cool to see something like this. So you see the protection warrior is going to taunt. He's going to taunt the boss and basically just gonna see what's happening. So in very soon you'll see these new sites spawning. You see these red sites. So these sites are actually the same or very similar to what you saw in Heroic version. The blue in the Heroic, it was the blue. You know, the blue lines that happen, and you kind of see where it's going to go. Everything's really visually clear. And in Mythic, the left side, you can see the left side starts spinning. It's spinning right now, and it's about to go through the raid. Now, what the raid members have to do is basically to find a gap in between those sides or axes or whatever you want to call them. Like I actually mentioned this before. A good weak aura back in the days would make this so easy to indicate where is the free spots and things like that. But it's very similar to what Tomb Sagaras, Mythical Jaden, Secret Phase was like. You know, in the obelisk spawning, someone in the raid had full dedicated job to actually find a free spot in the raid to stand in. So this is something similar to that, because what Blizzard does with these bosses, with these cutting edge bosses, they come up with a mechanic that's going to one-shot, that players can always get caught out. It's hard to see. It's not something that's super obvious. You actually have to pay attention to it, and you can wipe very easily. And every single boss, or at least a lot of bosses, seem to have this mechanic, which basically allows for no mistakes to happen. So if you watch the video further down, you'll see that the sides happen from the right side, and the same thing happens. A couple of people, actually, I think like 5 people got caught there. And you see that actually, if you do get caught by these sides, there's going to be like a red orb spawning beside you, and those red orbs, you can see there, actually, the red orbs are going to follow the people that got hit. And once they get close to them, it's going to detonate, dealing like a massive amount of damage, probably one-shotting you. So you need to make sure not to get hit by sides. And this is another ability here. You see this big red orb basically overshadowing the whole platform that needs to be killed. And once it's killed, it stops expanding. The problem here is that it wasn't killed in time, and they basically wiped because they weren't sure what to do. Now, this kind of mechanic that basically overflows the whole platform, and it requires massive amount of DPS. You can almost see this in terms of a raid DPS check. Like, let's say, for example, it has a massive amount of HP, and you need to have a massive amount of DPS. Now, we saw this in before the top mythic and guilds used to comment about how it was mathematically impossible and things like that, that you needed some insane amount of DPS to actually kill things like that. So this kind of mechanic is very easy solution to provide a DPS check by Blizzard. But that's yet to be seen. It's yet to be seen if it's mathematically impossible. I'm not sure if there's going to be a Mythic Argus kill this week, but possibly next week. Like, no one wants to see a Mythic raid clear in 1 week. It doesn't affect you. It only affects 1% of the people. But people still always will say they don't like a raid to be cleared, and it's too easy, even though it doesn't affect them. But I kind of get it at the same time. I don't want to be cleared in 1 week. At the end of the day, it doesn't really affect me as well. So it's really interesting to see this video. Now let's move on to one of the limit DDoS attack stories. Now this is an interesting aspect of high-end Mythic raiding. So Limit, who is arguably the best US raiding guild and one of the top raiding guilds in the world, who dedicate a lot of hours, who have multiple alts, who like really push for progression. They basically revealed on their Twitter page, and a lot of the people like refuted, who's also like a restoration druid for Limit, has tweeted a lot about this, a lot about a player, Adios, who was like basically a backup healer for Antorus and also a backup healer for Tomb Sagaras, who DDoSed. For the people who don't know who DDoSed is, basically he was able to get IP addresses of other healers and basically flood them with or just flood them with too much information, which made them DC. It basically, he got IP addresses of the players and made them disconnect, made them unreliable for raiding. You can be the best player in the world, but if your internet is not stable, you are not going to be invited. So he was a backup healer. He was sitting on the bench. He was probably arguably a good player, because you have to be a good player to be in a top-end Mythic guild. So he was a backup player who was sick of warming the bench. And basically, we actually saw some of the tweets here. The Twitter's gone crazy. We saw that he was actually doing this for way early. He was doing this in Tomb Sagaras when they were progressing on Mistress. And one of the healers suddenly started to disconnect, become unreliable. So Adios was brought in for Mythic Avatar, Mythical Jaden first kills. So it worked for him. And all of a sudden, after those kills happened, the other healer internet went fine. It became fine. It was all good. So they didn't realize this at that time. They didn't realize this, what's happening then. But now the same thing happened in Antorus. The exact same thing happened in Antorus. Some of the healers, the main core healers, one of the healers started disconnecting, and all of a sudden, once the healer disconnects, a DDOS logs in, and he's ready to raid. He's ready to raid because, like, you know, he just came there. He just all accidentally. But this is just crazy. This story has been covered by things like by a lot of news source websites like Kotaku, and it's one of those stories that you don't believe, but at the same time you kind of almost see the amount of dedication that goes into, like, this guy put a lot of effort into this. It's really sneaky. It's really, like, I mean, what kind of person, what kind of player you have to be to do that is just unbelievable. But at the end of the day, you see that the mythic guilds push for content so much, push for world first kills so much. They have 5 ballads, they have to get all the legendaries, they have to play 20 hours a day. Like, it's not uncommon to play 20 hours a day and just, like, push really hard. And you can see that this guy really wanted the kills. Now, this is just unbelievable. Like, I've never heard of something like this. I really hope that I would never meet people like this in real life or, like, in a game, because this is, like, one of the craziest things that I've seen. I know guilds have a lot of drama. I know guilds have a lot of drama about loot, about maybe someone doesn't like one person, someone doesn't like other person, but I mean, DDoS them, like, destroy their internet, destroy the raid spot, considering that the person also tried really hard to get there, put in a lot of effort, and then being wrecked by someone who you trusted in the guild is insane. Like, honestly, this is one of the most insane stories that I've heard. Like I said, I've heard stories about guild drama. Guild drama is basically, like, part of World of Warcraft, but not to this extent. So I'm kind of happy and sad to see what this healer DDOS is going to, like, I mean, his name is all over Twitter. I've never seen this. Like Limit and a lot of the people from Limit are just tweeting about this non-stop. Like, his name is going to, he's gonna become one of those memes. He's going to be Leroy Jenkins in a very bad way, because Leroy Jenkins is a legend. He's not gonna be a legend. It's really interesting, this story. Let me know how you feel about this. Let me know how you feel about the secret Mythic Argus phases, about the mechanics that are there. I think it's actually pretty cool to see them. I can't wait to try them in months and months and months of times until it gets nerfed by like 5 times or something. And let me know how you feel about the whole, what would you do to get your raid spot? Besides actually becoming a better player, what would you do to get your raid spot? Insanity. Insanity. Thank you for watching this little news video kind of thing. Let me know if you like the content. Let me know if you enjoy these kind of style videos, and I'll see you next time.